You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman. What happens when you become the target of hate spread across wide swaths of the media, of a movement that is as frightening and violent as it is just factually wrong? You might want life to go back to normal, but those who've experienced this know things can't ever be the same. There are lessons and light moments to be found, though, as we'll hear from this next piece, which comes to us from Bellingham, Washington.
Hi, my name is Jenn Mason, and I'm the owner of WinkWink, which is a woman-owned, not creepy sex shop in Bellingham, Washington, which means that we have big open windows, plants everywhere, bright lights, that it's really warm and welcoming and doesn't look like a traditional, more seedy style sex shop. And I'm also a school board director for Bellingham Public Schools. So I teach sex ed through the shop, and we have an event space at our store where we hold sex ed. So it's attached, but it is a separate space from our store. Our youth sex ed class is called Uncringe Academy, and we teach pretty standard sex ed stuff, honestly. A lot about anatomy, puberty, consent, healthy relationships. It's pretty straightforward. And we also sometimes hold events for youth. So we were doing a queer youth open mic night as part of Whatcom Youth Pride. And so normal things for us and normal things in our community. In 2022, we were the target of a bunch of right-wing news stories that misrepresented my work and said that I was a groomer and a pedophile. The right-wing media portrayal was completely inaccurate and false. It entirely misrepresented the work that I do, which is very normal sex education and queer youth advocacy. So it was fabricated and misrepresented to a stunning degree.
This woman who's a school board member wants to bring the kids to her sex shop to profit from the grooming of children.
This is grooming. And also you had a number of critics say that this was aimed at normalizing pedophilia and the sexualization of children.
They want to abolish the future families of America. And you do that by sexually destroying young children.
The threats and harassment got really, really bad. The most public thing that happened was all of our windows were smashed out in the store, which was obviously terrifying and very expensive. But honestly, some of the other parts of it were more personally scary for me. I had people texting me on my personal phone, like my personal home address, to say, I know you live here. I can see you watching TV right now. I can see you on your couch, which, you know, who knows? I got death threats. We had a few times when we had people protesting outside the shop. We had people who were open carrying. We had a man with a very large gun, like a rifle style gun, standing across the street from the shop. So people who, were openly carrying and there to intimidate. For a good month, I would leave the store with like my hood on and circle the block a few times before I went home. It was really scary. Some of the things that still stand out for me are emails that told me I should die in a gas chamber because I'm Jewish, or that the Holocaust made sense because of people like me. I also had, my daughter is disabled, and so I had a number of emails and messages that were telling me that my daughter's disabled because I'm a terrible person, or that I've gotten what I deserved. People really, really believed that I was grooming children, and people really believed that I was doing bad things to children. And I also think that there were just people who felt like I was a representation of everything that they see wrong with the world right now. And so I think people were responding to both their anger and then from the pain that they have experienced in their own life. It turns out when you're a business owner, you have to be the adult in the room all the time. And so, at first it felt like I didn't really have space for my own feelings. I just had to handle the stuff. I had to handle helping my staff get through it. I had to handle, PR. I had to handle messaging, communications, school district. Like, there was just so much to handle. And I was really also pretty angry. I felt so angry about the misrepresentation. It felt absurd and scary and terrifying. And I just kept thinking, one of the things that made me the most angry was the irresponsibility of media outlets who I felt like knew they were reporting false information and continued to do it for clickbait and were putting my life in danger. It just made me so angry. much of the time when I was going through all of this, it just felt really dark and heavy, and you're getting hundreds to thousands of messages a day of threats and harassment. And periodically, I would have somebody who would message me to say things like, I don't agree with you, but I'm so sorry for what's happening. And it was like light. It was like light in darkness to me. It just felt so buoying, and it felt like there was hope, and it felt like maybe there are still good people in all of this. I've really carried the feeling with me of how important it was to hear from people who weren't on my side or who weren't on my team during that time, still expressing empathy and being kind to me. And so as I've moved forward, I have periodically reached out to people who are going through, an internet crisis or being attacked by an internet mob, whether I agree with them or not, to express my empathy, to reach out, to say I hope they're okay, to go to coffee with them, because I know what it's like, and I just don't think anyone deserves that. When I reach out to people and ask them to have coffee who've been through internet things, sometimes people just ignore me. But I have had times where I went out with coffee with folks who are politically not aligned with me, and we've had a really good experience. And I think we were able to see each other as human beings, and it's been really heartening. I love nothing more than surprising people with kind of how normal I am. And I actually love nothing more than people surprising me. I love to be surprised by people. I love to be surprised by liking someone I think I'm not going to like. I love to find out that I agree with somebody that I thought I was just going to disagree with. I love those moments, and I really try to seek them out. 3 years later, I still feel like this experience is shaping me, and it's also shaping me in ways that feel surprising, even to me, because I think I would have thought that I would have felt even more hardened and even more defiant and even more angry as time went on. And what's actually happened is that I've softened in a lot of ways. I think what I went through was so horrible. The vitriol and hate that I received was so awful. It really made me feel like I never want to see people go through that, whether I agree with their perspective or not. I don't want people to experience what I did. I also think it just demonstrated to me the depth of pain that people are feeling. I think if you're going to send the types of hateful things that I received, there has to be some sort of unresolved pain in your life, or a reason that all of that anger and upset is there. And it has made me feel like I want to understand that, and I want to know that, and I want to cultivate compassion towards those hard spots in other people. 2022 really underlined for me that sex education is super important, that people still have a lot of misunderstandings about what sex education is and how important it is for young people. So it really underlined my mission and made me feel like this is needed and this is necessary for people to have more exposure and information to accurate, comprehensive sex ed. So these days, I'm still doing Uncringe Academy, our youth sex ed class. I'm still doing queer youth advocacy. But these days, I'm also focused on doing a lot of work around sex after trauma. So I have a class called Sex After Bad Stuff that I created, and I help people who've experienced bad things around sex, assault, trauma, bad stuff that there's not a great word for. And I help them to think about and actually have the kind of sex that they want to where they're at now. 2022 has actively pushed me to learn about people who are more conservative, who are more religious, and also to push myself outside my bubble in real life. I think I didn't realize until 2022 how much of a bubble that I was in, and also how much I don't want to be in that bubble. I want to know what's happening outside my bubble, and I also hope that other people want to know me, even if I'm outside of theirs. I think most of us have a really similar vision for what a good community and a good world look like, and we have really different ways of getting there. But I actually think we have a lot more in common than we think that we do.
Jenn Mason is the owner of WinkWink in Bellingham. She's also the school board president for Bellingham Public Schools. And this story was reported and produced by Kyle Norris. Thanks for listening to Soundside. By the way, this show is only possible because listeners support us. If you are able to give right now, check out the show notes for a link to donate. And don't forget, you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org.